give your each give your mic a test. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. We're good. We're on. We're live. Well, I'll first start by thanking everybody for coming out and having these wonderful panelists support professional women in yachting. Also, want to do a special thanks to New Coast for sponsoring our food and drink this evening. Thank you so much. I'd like to talk a little bit about professional women in yachting and what we do. We are a full nonprofit 501c3 organization here in Broward County, and we are a group of women in the marine industry that fundraise for marine science and ocean conservation. There's many women's organizations popping up, which is so fabulous, and we support many of them. We're just a little bit different in the fact that we are philanthropically focused. We have partnered with NSU, Broward County Sea Turtle Conservation, and the Marine Environmental Education Center in Hollywood, and they are our primary beneficiary, so all the money that we raise goes directly towards them at our annual Sea Turtle Hatchling Release Beach Bash in August. So we're super excited to have been raising some more funding this year, and with the help of everybody's support, we just want to say thank you, and hopefully you'll see us at our Hatchling Release Beach Bash, because it's literally the cutest thing ever. If you've ever seen a bunch of baby sea turtles at night go off into the ocean, it's just amazing. So, thank you for that. I'd like each panelist to introduce themselves, and based off what I just said about our philanthropic mission, I'd like you to share a little bit about your personal journey in the marine industry, your passion for the industry, and your passion for anything philanthropic. Laura, we'll start with you.
Hello, I'm Laura Sherrod, New Coast Insurance, and you see in the little pamphlet you have there, 5th generation Floridian. So, instead of getting into my story, which is really boring, I've been in the yacht insurance industry since 1987. Who was born after 1987? Long time. And so, it's a very interesting industry, but more importantly, I want to talk about philanthropy. So I have a question for you guys, and the winner gets this lovely book. When was Miami founded? 1896. Okay? All right. So when was Fort Lauderdale founded?
I know this one. Hold on, I just saw this. I can't remember. I just saw it.
1911. So the reason why I mentioned that, and I'm going to read the book, by the way, but this is a story that was written by the Commodore Ralph Middleton Monroe about Miami. He founded a club in Coconut Grove in 1887. Our history is tiny, is just insignificantly short compared to Mediterranean and some other things like that. So we do kind of have to give ourselves a break when we look at how fast the yachting industry is growing and how it's growing and how great it is and how interesting it is. We really are on the cutting edge of something fabulous. So anyway, this is a great story, Commodore story, talks about the Barnacle, which is a museum in Coconut Grove that I'm a big fan of, and my friend is the president of. And it tells about, he was a boat builder. It tells about the history of Coconut Grove, which was before Miami. And that's for you. So, that's me. Okay.
Next.
I'm Amy Ira. I learned at a NAWBO meeting one year that you never say my name is. If you're a woman, you say I am. So I am Amy Ira.
Why? Why is that?
Because your name is given to you by someone else. So that's what they see you as. Whereas if you say I am, it gives you the power back, I guess.
Okay.
Carolina. My my entrance into the yachting industry started back in 1991. I was a waitress at Bimini Boatyard. It's now called the Boatyard. It was their opening season. I just finished my fashion design degree in Fort Lauderdale. I thought I was going to be a fashion designer. I planned to make the Academy Award gowns for all the movie stars. That was my plan A. A yacht broker took a liking to me, liked my accent. He had just sold a boat that was going to be going to Cape Hatteras. Said, how would you like to do what you're doing here, but on a yacht? And we'll pay you $75 a day, and we'll fly you home. And I'm like, oh my God, sign me up. This was a long time ago. Exactly, right? And that was twice what I was making as a waitress. So that was twice what I was normally making like $30 a day waitressing. The job didn't come through. He said, if you're interested seriously, because of course I didn't have any experience. I knew how to tie a line on a cleat because I had part-time at a fuel dock in Pompano, and I had waitressing experience. That was what you needed at the time to be a stewardess. I was cute too, and 21 years old. So, he suggested that I go to Crew Finders, where Linda Turner, my long-term mentor, found me my very first yacht job. And I hope this doesn't run too long, but I'm going to try to speed it up, summarize. That job was second stew on a 120-foot yacht called Safe Conduct. I gave my notice at my 2 jobs. I had one job in the design field, one job at Bimini Boatyard. Had my going away parties, found somebody to sublet my apartment, found a place to put my car. Everything was a go. I was so excited. I had told everyone, and I called the captain to say, how much room do I have for my bags? Because I didn't know, like, how much am I allowed to bring? And he's like, oh, didn't we tell you? Didn't they tell you? We're not going with the third stew this summer. So, welcome to the yachting industry. So I cried, of course, went straight to Linda with tears in my eyes, and she's like, girl, I got you. Let me just make some phone calls and find some people for you to interview. And of course, that same day, she sent me to Bradford Marine, where I interviewed with the captain who gave me my break. I'll skip that part. That worked. I was on. Well, all right, I'll go back because now you're curious as to what it was. I asked the questions as I arrived. I'm like, so what do these ropes mean? And he's like, well, that's the bow line, that's the stern line, this is the forward spring, and this is the forward spring and aft running spring. I'm like, okay, cool. So we went inside. I left it at that, and on my way out after the interview, I named the lines again, just to reiterate that I was listening, paying attention, and I grasped it. I got the forward spring and the aft spring wrong because they are opposites of what they seem like they would be. Because it's the forward spring is running forward from the aft, and the aft spring is running aft from the forward. So now you know that too. A year and a half on yachts, I decided I had met a boy, decided to come shore base, went to work in retail. I was planning to be in Fort Lauderdale, where I would see him once a year or twice a year when his boat would be in my area, Fort Lauderdale. Then, after that year, he had gotten a different job on a circumnavigation, so I decided to go back to yachts and went to Crew Finders again to say, Linda, I'm ready, but this time I want second stew, 140 foot plus, charter only, summer only, in the Med only. Because at the end of the summer, I know, it was a tall order. At the end of the summer, I planned to use all of my charter tips to support myself while I worked at the Chanel Couturier as an intern in Paris. So I studied French for 6 years. I had no idea that I was American and that would never happen, but it was my plan A. So I went to Crew Finders, said that to her. She's like, would you like to cover my phones on like just a day as a secretary? I'm like, sure, I can do that. Then Captain Eddie at Crew Unlimited had reached out to her to say, I need somebody to cover the phones. So then she said, would you like to cover the phones for Captain Eddie for this day? So that was in '93, February of '93. That one day turned to every Friday as a Girl Friday. Probably y'all don't know what that means. It means just a random person to help you in the office. So I was the everyday Girl Friday, and Monday through Friday at Contempo Casuals, and I had a third job at the other one, Marriott Harbor Beach, cocktail waitress on the beach. Got some sun, stayed in shape. making ends meet while I looked for, so I told Captain Eddie I wanted the same job, second senior, 140 foot plus, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I don't have that, but in the meantime, can you cover the office for me? So I covered the office from February until June. That dream job had not presented itself to me then. And he said, can you cover the office for a month while I take my wife to see the Mississippi River Queen in New Orleans? And I said, of course, I can cover you. I had already had the hitch put on my Honda Civic because I was moving on to Plan B, which was transferring from Contempo Casuals Retail to the design department in California. So I was moving to Cali. And
Did you see your boyfriend?
there's a different story. The long and the short of it is no. The 5-year plan that we made is a whole other subject. Back to Captain Eddie. So yes, I covered the office for the month while he was gone. We had 36 jobs at any given, no, sorry, that was wrong. Like 11 or 12 jobs at the time that we were trying to place. He went on holiday with his wife, came back, and he had fallen ill. So he was at home sick for a week, came to the office for a few days, and then went into the hospital. While I was in the hospital, he had become a grandfather figure for me. And said he was 87 years old. He was actually 69 years old, but a very old 69. Had emphysema. They discovered while he was in the hospital that he had lung cancer and liver cancer. And he said, he made sure that his wife called me to come up. I was coming up every night anyways. And by the way, they have carpet in the hospitals in Lighthouse Point. I don't know why. So never forget it. I'm like, this can't be sanitary. Anyway, yes. Green, too, carpet. Anyway, he said, girl, I love you. You're doing a great job. I want you to have the company.
Oh, what?
That was Captain Eddie. And I just grabbed his hand. I'm like, well, we got this. Don't worry about it. Just get well and come back to the office. So he didn't. He wrote on he had a living will and told his wife to get the police because he didn't want the tracheotomy, the tubes, breathing tubes and whatnot. So when he passed, she didn't exactly honor that gift, but she did give me the opportunity to buy the company from her at a price that I said that the company could make. I called my mom. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. Like, Mom, what am I doing? What do I do? I don't feel like, my plan was to go to California now, but he's given me this legacy of this opportunity, and what do I do with this? And she said, I don't want you moving to California anyway. It's too far. You can't drive home. And just try it. See what happens. So Mrs. E. Schultz and I went to the bank. She added me onto the bank account so that I could pay the rent and myself. We had $12,000 in the bank, so I wrote her a check for $6,000 and gave it to her immediately and said, when the other 6 is over, then I'll move on to Plan B, but I'll see how this goes for now. And thank God we have not run out of money.
That's amazing. Yeah, I did want to know a little bit about your philanthropic
So my
passion.
don't really have a lot of charities.
Great, you can support professional women in your
Yes, but I do have a pet project, and that is I'm anti-single-use plastics. So water bottles I won't buy. I'll buy the big ones that you refill, the 5-gallon ones, whatever. The filters is my preference, but Charter Yacht Brokers Association, if you guys are in touch with any crew that are on yachts, if you could spread the word, there is what's called the Going Green to Save the Blue initiative that we are part of, and we would love to see the yachts use water made on the boat in the reverse osmosis rather than Fiji water bottles. So pass it along.
We love that initiative. Thank you.
Did you see your boyfriend?
Stop. No questions to Leanne, please. Go ahead, Christy.
What have I asked? I'm on the panel, so I have to ask her. Well, I am Christy Hebert, and my name, Christina, is what you see a lot, and that's probably what's there, but since we're amongst friends, I go by Christy, and the reason I have that story is when I was never, ever going to work for my family business. I only went one summer I worked because I was grounded. And there's a Miami cruise ship story for that, but I was grounded, and so I had to do our network input, But after that, I went away to school. I was a political science major, pre-law. Was going to be a lawyer, and my father pulled me aside and said, "There's enough lawyers in the world." And I was like, "No, but I'm going to be a really good one. And I'm going to do like really good things." Well, in the meantime, you know, while you're applying and studying for the LSAT, can you help your mother with a catalog? And so we were, at the time, we didn't have a parts catalog, and I'm like, well, okay, you know, all right, I'll be here part time in a couple months, and I don't know what to do. And just so you, for all of you out there born after what was the year you picked? 87? Okay. Well, I had to load this program to write this catalog with 27 floppy disks. It was That's okay. Comments are accepted. You're allowed to ask me any questions. It's all right. And so I thought, oh, good Lord, and I bought this like page maker for dummies, and then, which was the name of the program, and it became, in my working there, I really obviously had been a part of the company growing up. I knew everybody, and it became everything I never knew I always wanted, and I never left. And then after that, I became, so we were in off Flagler. We still own the buildings, but we were a company. We had about 19 people, and I knew my dad and I, we needed to take it up to a level and really kind of, obviously, you know, raise our standards. One of my first objectives I got rid of, and I can say it here, but I got rid of a booby board. And if you want to know what a booby board is when all the guys have a cork board in the shipping department of all of their fun. And so my husband at the time actually was in shipping, and I was like, what is this? Like, what is going on? And our FedEx driver was female. And so I was like, this needs to go. And so I became COO, and actually my nickname, even as the CEO now, is I'm the fun killer. Because they used to do beer drinking on Fridays too. The new guy had to buy beer, and one time I go there and I look in the company refrigerator, and there's like cases of beer, and I'm like, who's going on a boat? Which is bad to say, but I'm like, who's going on a boat ride? And oh no, it's the new guy bought beer for everybody. So I'm like, so let me get this straight. The supervisors are asking younger guys to bring in beer, so then they can all drink and drive home after a company event. Fun killer. Killed that one. And not in a bad way, but as a company, like in order to grow up and really be that, we really had to grow up. And so we used to have a booth in the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. Obviously where I am now, I mean, not that any of you would know where, I'm in the super yacht tent, but that took so many years. We used to be in the 1 in 200 tent. And the reason we picked that is because if you went down to the end of the aisle, you saw the Budweiser girls that used to be there. And our counter held the tallest beer fun killer. Killed that too, so we had to switch. So my role really became like, how do we really grow up as a family business and launch ourselves into being professional? And that's really what I've been working on and still working on and continue to do so as the chief fun killer. In the company. As far as philanthropy, I think that as far as, it's not so much, I would call it charity, but I know that it was ingrained in me. My grandfather was a founding member of like this association. My father was a board member. He always said give back to the industry. So I got on boards very young, spent a lot of time, dedicated a lot of hours to that. And it's mainly just for our future. We all need to give back to the industry. Being here is giving back to the industry, being a part of something that's greater than you. And we too have a charity arm to Wards Marine Electric called Wards Way. And so you'll start seeing some things. We're going to start doing some things to help other charities out there. We're not necessarily creating our own separate charity, but more to support either scholarships or education or professional women in yachting and those things. So we're coming up with that. So.
I have a quick question, and maybe Michelle can help me with this one. Can your staff drink the beer in the parking lot? Is that like a little bit?
Fun killer rule? No.
Not recommended.
I tried for your people. They'll see this live.
I make them change their shirts at the boat show when they leave their booth. If they're off and they want to go, that's great. Just don't wear your work shirt. Bring a separate shirt, change it, take it off.
Your name tag.
Yeah, fun killer. So now, if you all want to implement those things, you can say Christy Awards. Queen Fun Killer.
Thank you, Christy. Michelle?
I'm Michelle Otero Valdez. I am a maritime lawyer. I have been a maritime lawyer for 31 years. So I was definitely born before 1987. What got me into the industry was it pulled me in kicking and screaming. So I was born and raised in Central Florida, so I like to fish and shrimp, and I would scallop. I wasn't really allowed to date because I've got Latin parents. So you can imagine I lived in a little crappy town called Titusville, and my mother wanted to be the chaperone at my dates. Yeah, that's going to go over well in a very redneck town. Anyway, I digress. So I did a lot of on-the-water stuff because there's nothing else to do in Titusville, Florida, really. I mean, unless you were watching the space shuttle go up or something. So I did a lot of that, and came down to Miami to start studying, knowing I wanted to go to law school, and fully intending, didn't even know maritime law was a thing. Took a class called Admiralty 1, and I did this thing called booked class, which is you get the highest grade in the class. Unbeknownst to me, the professor gave me a job working for a maritime personal injury firm representing crew. There was no such thing as yacht crew back in, I'm almost afraid to say what year that was, 1991, 92. They were all cruise ship crew, so they were very lonely people. They'd be on 9-month contracts, very far away from home, normally from either the Philippines, Central America, or Indonesia, very lonely. So needless to say, I'd be followed home a lot after work, which was a little scary. But I actually enjoyed the work, and I felt like I was doing something very positive for the industry. I was clearly good at it because my boss was unhappy when I said I was leaving, but that's because he was a jerk, not because of the work. And then I graduate law school and begin working for a maritime defense firm, mostly representing vessel owners and marine insurers. And the rest is history. So I've been doing this for a really long time. I worked in-house for a marine insurer for 8 years, mostly doing English law, representing mostly tanker owners. Did that for 8 years. That was very interesting. And went back into private practice and got involved with yachts after that period of time. The yacht industry was a burgeoning industry. There was a lot of work. I did a lot of tug and barge stuff. I don't know, don't ask me why ask me later. Why tug and barge actually translated well for yachts, mostly because there's not as many crew as on a big working ship. But, and I was shocked by my very first loss, where it was a 125-foot plastic yacht, like literally strands in the Bahamas, and the loss was worth $10 million. I thought to myself, the thing is made of plastic. I mean, I had tankers that were ripped open like a tin can. And, we spent $2 million in reef restoration. Like, what the hell? Like, what is this yacht stuff? And so, of course, I became very interested in that, and have never looked back since that time. In terms of, I'm the only Latina that's board certified in Admiralty and Maritime Law, I think anywhere. Definitely in Florida. I did that kicking and screaming, but, it has served me very well. Turning to philanthropy, I agree with you. It's all about giving back to this particular community. It was hard for me to get into it. No maritime firm wanted to hire me. They said, well, you didn't go to the Navy. You weren't in the... Every excuse under the sun for not hiring me as a lawyer. There were no women doing maritime law back when I graduated in 1994. And the few that did exist only had their own law firms, right? They had worked, they'd come from family, and it was dad that was a maritime lawyer, and they became a maritime lawyer. So I was kind of like this obnoxious person that wasn't going to take no for an answer. That's probably why I have my own law firm now. Because it dawned on me after so many years that I was always going to be the worker bee, and I was never going to be taken fully seriously until I just did it on my own. So I've had my own law firm since 2012 and haven't looked back since. And it's all about giving back. So I'm in a bunch of different organizations I won't even get into, that I give way too much time to, as Lord knows. Right? There's a lot of them. And so I'm a sucker for when you ask me to come speak to a group of women, or when it comes to crew. Those are kind of like my two weaknesses in terms of giving back. And I probably I'm one of those that like try to give 10% of what I earn, so it tends to be a lot of money. So I really appreciate you guys for showing up, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Really quick, because I forgot, I asked the ladies to send me a fun fact about themselves. So I'll just quickly do them. Laura says she has unusually long arms, and that she is fully prepared to prove it. So.
Alright, so this is, everybody has to participate in this, okay?
I did not know this was a group activity, but okay.
We're not arm wrestling, are we? No. Hold your arm down. Take your hands approximately, pull them through. And then stick your elbow.
Okay. That is long arms. All right. Long arms. Yes. Like I said, okay, Amy says that if she had to only eat one food for the rest of her life, it would be chocolate. So we know what to give her as a gift, always. Christy says she's a very talented tap dancer, and she's prepared to show us too.
Oh, you want me to prove it?
Yeah, let's do a little jig.
Great.
This is yes.
Okay, let's see. Like a time step, like my shoes are gonna fall off.
Yeah, my parents.
It would be better if you had shoes, but it's step, shuffle, step, shuffle.
And if you had tap shoes, we would be able to hear your
Be able to
clap.
hear it,
Ooh, someone's calling you out over here.
they do things, you see things people do wings, where they put their feet out. It's better to do in the shoes, it's hard to do in your barefoot, but I can do a tap dance next time I'm wearing shoes.
We believe, and we're expecting the shoes because I definitely need to see
Well,
that.
I didn't know her ahead of time, but I already said that, I am.
Thank you for the show. This is great. This is entertaining.
So any of you felt bad? I just had to get up and do a tap dance. But no touch. I'm giving back.
I know, it's a little circus show over here, guys.
I was hoping you were going to throw out the facts and have us guess who it was.
Next time.
That's a good one.
And then Michelle actually races these boats, kayaks called scullies. Oh, so hate me.
Yeah, it's a racing shell called a skull.
I
So
never
the
heard this
sculler-
before. She just showed me a picture. It's like, like Harvard, like rovers, like when you talk like that. She does that. But like she has this really cool like yellow banana one. It's really cool. It's really fancy. She's doing it. It looks like a yellow banana. Yeah.
Single person boats or multiple?
She does it solo, but and with people.
Are they single person boats or?
I mean, I tend to race doubles or quads, coxless doubles and fours, but coxless, yes. C-O-X, the person that's screaming, yeah, we don't have one of those. But yes, I do also, I don't tend to race the single, but I do row the single. Like I try to do it 2 or 3 times a week.
On the banana, it's yellow. It's
On the banana.
the big banana. All right, well, thank you ladies for giving us a little bit of your background. We'll get into our discussion topics now. Oh my God, that was so fun. See you guys everything. All right, first question. And I don't care, we don't need to go this order, so whoever feels like they want to just jump in and start it off, I'm cool with that. Okay. Sustainable yachting is the buzzword of the moment. But let's be honest, is it a genuine shift in our industry or just a glossy layer of greenwashing? Are we truly innovating for the planet or selling an illusion wrapped in recycled teak and hybrid engines? How does this relate to your field directly, and name some innovations or falsities that you've seen?
Can you repeat that?
No. Yeah. Greenwash. Are we greenwashing or are we really being innovative for sustainability? It's very popular right now.
Okay, I'm gonna.
You gotta turn your mic on.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna just say,
Wait, it's
my
still not on.
grandfather was.
Is it on?
All right,
It's on.
hold on.
Is it up or down?
Hold on. Okay, hello.
On.
Okay, my grandfather was responsible for dynamiting the Everglades, okay? So I'm probably not the right person to talk about environmental. We've come a long way, baby, you know? But yeah, he used to have a dynamite business at Merrill Stevens, and so we're definitely making progress compared to where we were in the 1940s, I can say that, so pass it on.
I've seen quite a few changes. There's solar-powered sun reefs that was right across the dock from us at the boat show this past Palm Beach. One of the things that I've seen that I really don't prefer is the fake teak, the faux teak. I forget what it's even called, but it's
Is that foam? Is it
no, it's
foam
like plastic, and it will freaking melt your feet if it gets too hot, and if you don't have any shoes on, it's terrible. It's nowhere near as nice on your feet. It takes the luxury feel off of a luxury yacht, in my opinion. Teak is way cooler on your feet than the plastic faux teak, and I really don't think it's environmentally friendly. You know, anything that's plastic takes petrol to get it, so you would be better off to just grow more teak trees, in my opinion. I think it's a fallacy.
So, to back that up, at this last boat show in Palm Beach, went on a boat with the fake teeth, and they encouraged us to keep the shoes on because it was so hot. So we just kept our shoes on, except inside the boat.
But that said, isn't there an issue with the Lacey Act right now and understanding where you get your teak from and where it comes from, and you have to prove the vendors and all sorts that it comes from good places. So I understand why people are going in that direction because it thwarts a regulatory environment, but it does go in the wrong direction environmentally. I would say from an electrical perspective, first off, I think sustainability is a mindset, and anybody can do it, and you can make small decisions if you make that choice. I don't think that in the yachting industry we're ever going to see a fully net carbon zero. They're going to say that, but I think that's going to be hard. But I do think that there are things that can be done from an electrical perspective. I think we do it with power management. I know that you can, I know for us, we're working on a project right now on a boat that has 9 generators, and they're going to make their power decisions 40 kW at a time. The days of a big generator, let's say two 200 kW generators, and you run the whole boat on one, and then you switch over to the other. These generators are way oversized. You have a lot of exhaust problems. You have a lot going on, and I would say in general that mindset has shifted, that you can now allow power management. You can have smaller generators as long as you manage your loads, and there's a lot more forethought going into that. I don't know that that's necessarily innovation as much as the technology's been out there, as much as people are listening now. Builders are listening, owners are listening, and I think that there's just a decision to be more thoughtful on those choices that you make.
Well, I would add, when it comes to greenwashing, I look at everything from the legal standpoint, right? So the problem that we're seeing is we're having everything kicked back. So, if anyone remembers what happened with VW when they essentially kind of fibbed a little bit on what their cars were doing, right? The SEC is going after everyone with a vengeance, and now, given the current administration, we're seeing a reliance back on let's get away from ESG and these ideas that we need to green things, and let's go back to being America and using fossil fuels. But so from the legal standpoint and looking, it really does, I agree, come to education. And look, my kids are now 21 and 26, and soon to be 22 and 26. And I will say that their mindset is very different than ours was. And a lot of this is going to be about education. And we need to do a better job of just educating within the home, and that will translate to industry. Regulation can't do it. Yes, are there countries, I'm thinking of the working ship side now, right, where you have countries like Norway and some others that are really looking to those greenhouse gas targets that the IMO has set for 2025, which is this year, right? And then 2050 for net zero. We could talk about this till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, when we talk about the yachting industry, what that's going to be are individuals that are educated enough to do what you've proposed and what you're seeing now. I have a client that's in the process of doing some changes to her yacht. Of course, I said her for a reason. What started it all were her teenage kids saying, "Mom, why do we have to have these 2 ginormous generators? Mom, why do we need this? Mom, why do we need that?" And she's actually going to spend the money to do some conversions on her 125 footer. We would have heard of that maybe even 10 years ago. So it really comes down to just education of individuals, because frankly, just look at the Coast Guard, bless their hearts. They're so behind the 8 ball in terms of regulations. And now, and every single time we have a different administration, they're going to go in a different direction. That's not the way to go. The way to go is individual education of these issues.
I agree. Can you make a comment on how maybe crew can make a difference?
Well, look, there's a lot of owners that don't know how to operate a boat, right? And if they're not managed by a management company, who are they relying on but the crew, right? And I'd really love to see more education in the crew space, but of course that would require the owner signing on to that. So that's why I say it really is a symbiotic relationship between, and I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that later in terms of crew, but you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours type thing. That's what that relationship is really all about. And anywhere that the crew, especially from these countries where they do have or have implemented these laws. I went to Italy and I was like, 8 different garbage cans I gotta throw. We're not used to that here, It's straight up education. And it really is the political will of us pushing our governments to do more. But at the end of the day, it's also about playing up education within your own homes and in your boats, and if you're willing to do it or not, really.
I agree. Okay, let's go to question 2. Given the current economic climate, setting politics aside, how do you foresee these disruptions shaping both the short-term reality and long-term trajectory of the yachting industry? And how will the tariffs affect your business directly? I wanted to dig in on this. Okay.
Should I call the police in case some people go on different sides?
No, we're setting politics aside. Can you hear me?
No, look,
We're all smart people. We can have a conversation.
absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, tariffs was a discussion with the first Trump administration, right? So in the first Trump administration, while he kept certain tariffs in play, of course, China was in the bullseye, right? So I had multiple vessel builders that were based out of China that was now facing a 26.5% tariff during the first Trump administration. So this is not news to certain boat builders, right? So now fast forward to this day and age, well, those tariffs are changing on a weekly basis, right? And the way it's being done is with executive orders. If you know anything about executive orders, it just requires some person on the administration to draft it up and someone to sign the damn thing. All right? And so they're changing on a weekly basis. And I expect the tariffs to be no different. So if you have someone who is a customs broker, make sure they become your best friend. Because they're going to be watching those, because I'm going to be more expensive than a customs broker, to be fair. I mean, I am giving some advice to certain boat builders, but, you know, the focus, as I understand this administration, is that, look, I'm not really looking to charge an 83% tariff against China. What I want to happen is that both countries agree to make it a big fat zero. I don't think that's going to happen with China. But of course, there's yachts from a lot of other countries. I'm thinking primarily Europe, right? Where before we had a 1.5% tariff, which is now ballooned to more than anyone ever expected. I see a situation where used boats now become a really cool thing.
That's actually, so I work for Marine Max, and they have a positive outlook at the moment when it comes to this, because they're looking at brokerage sales, and they're saying this is the opportunity as opposed to the doom and gloom. So if you own a boat, it's already duty paid. You're in a good spot. So that's today. We'll see what happens next tomorrow.
One thing I would say is if you have a U.S. flag boat now, don't change it.
What? Oh, really? What did you say? Sorry, can you say that?
If you have a U.S. flag boat now that was already duty paid, don't go off and change it.
Why?
I'll speak to the trajectory long term. When Captain Eddie was alive, he gave me 2 bits of information that he thought was important to impart to me. One was how to put a lien on a yacht, not related. The other was the economy is a cycle. What comes up has come down every 10 years. And I will relate this also to what Warren Buffett said during the 2009 crash. When everyone else is fearful, be greedy. When everyone else is greedy, be fearful. So everyone is terrified right now. Terrified right now. Sorry. Quack, quack, quack. But don't be. Go for market share. Buy into the stock market if you can. If you got any money, put it in there.
I would echo very similar to Amy about a cycle. What I was going to say is, we were in business during the luxury tax. That was absolutely against our industry. We've had, 9/11 had very negative impacts, unintended consequences for our industry. Again, that there was legislative against us. In this case, this isn't against us. This is just the country and versus other countries. And I think that in your business, if you really look at it and really go through it, I think hold tight. And hopefully we'll all get through it, but there's always a plan. I mean, again, if you looked at this industry, I can assure you there were meetings like this in the 90s, yes, I was at them, where the luxury tax was killing us. South Florida was going to sink. There was an environmental issue back then too. We were going to sink. Our businesses were all going to fail. Yachting was going to die. And look where we are today. So I think that as long as we all stay educated and we're able to have speakers such as yourself that can tell us the pros and cons, but also just look at your business, even if it's not yours, the company you work for, really try to understand what are the impacts. And the reality is some of these percentages, people talk to us about fuel in the past and how many boat sales or how many service jobs did you not get because the fuel prices were too high? Not really. None. And the fact is that for yards that are here, for companies like mine and Nick's and some of those that I know out there, if they buy the used boats, guess what? They're break. And then they're going to go to you and they'll need new equipment from you and I have to put in new equipment and they go. So in the end, look, COVID. How many people thought COVID was a gloom and doom? And look, thankfully to some of our associations and being essential workers, how many businesses closed? I know we didn't close for one day. Not one day. And how many other businesses or industries could do that? So sometimes, and I think the true answer to that is that so many of our companies in our industry are all small businesses, and we can be resilient. We can operate in triage. We can change the way we do. I can go in and change all of my pricing in several hours. Phone killer makes everybody stay, but I can do that, and we can do it, and then we can change it back. So I think have faith, work together, work with your partners, people that you do a lot of business with, talk to them and make them feel, again, communication, make them feel comfortable that, listen, we're not seeing any supply chain issues here. We are going to see some pricing increases. We're going to do our best to keep those down. You've been a long-time customer. Sometimes that goes a long way. If they know you're not worried about it, they're not going to be as worried about it. And then even your employees or people that you work with won't be as concerned about it. So ride the wave.
Well said. I like that, ride the wave.
Shoulder pads will be back again.
I have shoulder pads on right now, and they're fabulous, so I'm bringing it back. You do? I do.
Styles go around in cycles.
Yep. This is thrifted. Shoulder pads. Okay, moving on. Do you want to say that?
No, go.
Okay. The super yacht industry is known for luxury, but behind the scenes, there are growing concerns around crew welfare. From long hours and underpayment to toxic onboard cultures and strict NDAs, how can this industry better protect and empower crew while maintaining the high standards expected by owners and guests? Amy, just there to talk.
Beats me. I don't know how these kids do it anymore, honestly. They're so soft. Everybody's so soft. Everybody gets their feelings hurt so easily. And I don't think I could do it in this environment. I mean, I really didn't do it that long anyways. Yeah, I don't really have a good answer for that.
You're the crew guru.
Yes, I think we need to be more, I don't know if it's the interview process that needs to be more thorough. I would love to see captains interview with a scorecard that says that they are not going by emotional or how pretty the person is or how the person makes them feel. I want them to go by, this is the amount of experience they need. These are the skills that they need to have. This is the reputation they need to have. This is the profile on their Facebook that they need to have. They need to actually put their needs down on paper, make the job description, make the skills required for it. Don't interview anybody until you've looked at the resume and make sure that they match the criteria, then have the interview, then score them against the card, and make sure that you're hiring the best person for the job, not the prettiest person who's going to fit in the damn size 4 uniforms that seems to be the number one criteria.
Bingo.
And I'm only talking about the stewardesses at this stage.
And I would say that all comes down to professionalism, right? So, and like I said, it goes back to that symbiotic relationship. How do you expect to have the most professional crew if you don't even have a crew contract? How are you going to have the most professional crew if the vessel is not being operated professionally, right? So, I mean, while I agree with you in terms of the softness we're seeing with certain crew, I've noticed the vessels that have the most amazing crew are very professionally run. And it's not necessarily professionally run because they've got a vessel manager, but there is, If you have an owner that's a jerk, that's gonna filter all the way down the crew. That's the way it's gonna go. Whereas if you have an owner that expects excellence, that will filter down, presuming he's got the right people in place, right? So that's been my experience. When I see the injured crew member, the crew member that had a horrible car accident because he was a drunk and they knew he was a drunk, which means now the vessel owner's on notice, which means now they're stuck paying him a Jones Act claim. When I look at it, I get to see the worst of the relationship between the owner and the crew, especially when the first question out of my mouth is, does this guy have a crew contract? And 90% of the time, they do not.
Or it's happening.
The simplest thing in the world is to have a crew contract. It doesn't have to give him, flowers after he's been working a year, but at least know what your legal relationship is so that when the you-know-what hits the fan, you know how to deal with it. And I get numerous calls about, well, this crew member did this, or there was a fight. You know how many fights are on vessels? Guess what? If there was a fight on a vessel and you as the vessel owner didn't fire their asses and then there's another fight, guess who's now stuck paying their medical bills because you didn't fire their ass the first time because you weren't being professional about it. That is something that should be against the yacht's code of conduct, and if there's a fight, they should both go. End of story.
Not sure YouTube's a good idea, but let's just
Forgot about that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's okay. I like it because now I think that the word. Say what?
We just broke the internet.
All right, we did. I think the word is culture that we are talking, and having a good culture. And I know I can't really speak from a crew. I can only speak for like my crew. But its leadership is top down. So whether it's the owner or whether it's the captain, leadership is never bottom up. So if you have a bad crew, that is your leadership problem. I'm sorry, it is the captain's responsibility. And again, not everybody's a good fit. I think the interview process, I think understanding, but I also think you have to have a strong culture. People need to understand what are the expectations and what is proper behavior and how do you operate. I know in our company, we actually, even though it's kind of our, we call it the Ward's way, and there's a way that people need to address people, that our technicians need to go on a boat and address people, that when you call, if I ever heard, thank you for calling Wars, well, who the hell wants to talk to you? And it's the way you greet people, it's the way you carry yourself, it's the way, and it's developing a standard, and I can only imagine on a vessel where people are, at least my team, people get to go home. Yeah. They get to, and so I can recognize that that's got to have some challenge. But again, I don't have much knowledge on the crew, but I would say it starts with culture.
So I've been asking this question to captains for about a year and a half now, which is, because insurance doesn't get this question right. Insurance asks the wrong questions to identify their risk factors when it comes to a yacht, sometimes, particularly when it comes to crew. I've asked the captains, which would you rather have? A better boat with a lesser crew, or a better crew with a lesser boat? They all say crew. Every single one down to the last. And insurance doesn't look at it that way. They want the pretty boat with the fancy, label and everything. They don't look at the crew as a factor of safety, which it is. It is the ultimate safety when you have a great crew. So anyway, I'm not exactly sure how to measure that, other than we're trying to educate our underwriters to understand the fact that the crew makes the boat safe. That's it. So anyway, that's it.
Those underwriters probably just watch Below Deck and think it's all like sex and partying. And they're like, crew, what? We need like goodness and good radar and stuff, not crew. But I mean, such is life. I think crew is very important on a good vessel. I know for like charter and stuff like that, it's very important to know your crew, and it does help when they get along and are safe for insurance, legal, everything. So thank you for that. Okay. Next question. Is everybody enjoying this? Are we too controversial or? Yeah. Okay. I got a question. All right, we'll pause for a question. I'm about that.
I have a question for you in regards to crew, and I am curious to know with this shift in the industry, and not only that, but in the shift in the economy and with social media, have you seen a shift in new money? I'll call it that, new money versus old money in crew treatment, and maybe the way that new money versus old money, kind of approach the crew culture and not only that, but crew wellness, and just their life on board. Is there any, improvements, I'll say? Or because I think we all understand old money versus new money, and there are pros and cons to it and lifestyle.
In my experience, the old money treats people a lot better than the new money. The new money have to climb way up. They've built their empires, and by God, everybody else should have to as well. Is how they kind of come
Now
across.
you're seeing there are yacht owners that are in their mid-30s to early 40s, and there are yacht crew that are around the same age as well. And I think sometimes that dynamic can bring some interesting dynamics on board. For sure.
And I have a question for you, and maybe links also to the legal part of it. Like, are there any particular owners that, privacy is everything when you are in the ultimate luxury? Some, they're very much on social media themselves, their kids, their wife, their spouse, whatever. But are there any owners that hire captains, so they come to you to hire their captains and obviously burn down their crew members, that they ask you to sign an NDA, or they cannot post in social medias, they need to privacy? What is I'm just out there presenting an output to your knowledge. I probably didn't have the number ready for us right now, but what would be the percentage of the clients that ask you for privacy versus clients that ask you, they don't even think about it, and just hire people without any.
So most of our jobs come through the captain. It's only the owner or the manager that hires the captain, and then the captain hires everyone else. So the smaller the boat, the less likely that there's going to be an NDA. The larger the boat, the more likely it's going to be an NDA. It could be the owner that's requesting it. It could be the management company that is insisting on it or leading that.
Why would the
that charge.
management company insist an NDA?
Because they can, because they're smart, because they should. Really, it's a protection of the owner's asset. That's the management's role.
It's dependent on the management company, but what I've seen is anything above 100. I start seeing NDA. I don't really see NDAs for anything smaller than 100 feet. But I have seen a shift where I'm getting more owners or family offices that are demanding the NDAs, and then what they'll do is they'll send me their NDA that they use for land-based work, and then they ask me to incorporate it. Obviously, because if I'm dealing with an MLC contract, it's different than if it's not an MLC required vessel. So, but a lot of owners are even going so far as putting very strong liquidated damages provisions, which, I tell them that's kind of a tough sell, but the crew are signing them. So,
They're uninformed.
well, obviously without representation. Right, without representation. And I do get calls from crew every now and then. Like I told you, I'm kind of like a softie for crew. Even though I don't tend to represent them, my husband does that in the office. It's easier. Manny represents the crew, but he doesn't like to look at contracts. So
you would advise crew to have an attorney look at an NDA before they sign it?
and I do that.
I'm asking, what happens to that? I feel like some pro bono work available from some of these maritime.
Well,
attorneys.
what I tell the crew a lot of times is like, look, a lot of these are standard contracts, and I can look at it, you know, pretty quick and say, and other crew are willing to pay, especially if they're officers, they'll pay the money to have, especially when they look at it like, some of this stuff doesn't look right. So yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where the contract is a tough one because more and more and this is due to the management companies, by the way. I've seen some really onerous management contracts where they're putting, oh, you have to file suit in the flag of the vessel. Well, I don't know, most of these boats don't go to, say, the Marshall Islands. But you want me to go sue in the Marshall Islands? You know, things like that. So it's getting to be a huge problem. Because what I recommend to owners is be fair. If you're fair, your crew will stick with you. The minute that you go off the deep end and ask for ridiculous stuff, you start being a jerk, and it starts off not on a good foot.
Regarding the flag and how come a lot of these are written in the flag of the vessel, it's intentionally to be a deterrent because they don't want to get sued. They don't want anybody to sue them. So if you've got to take your case to Marshall Islands, for example, you're going to let it go.
Crew's not the only people. I will say that not that long ago, I was at a pretty big yard in Palm Beach, and I was eating lunch, and actually somebody came to me and said that they heard a loud boom by their frequency converter. So, you know, we kind of go over there like, all right, well, we'll go look. I don't know if I have somebody here, but I was with my general manager. Before you can get to the boat, they just heard a boom. I had to sign a whole NDA. And I'm like, listen, I'm not crew. I'm not here to take pictures. We're here to find out what your boom was. By the way, it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was like, you called because you're that fearful, but before we could even get on a boat. So one of the things they asked us to, I mean, I will tell you as repair people and electricians, we have to sign the same NDAs. And one thing that, have you found that we try to stick something in that's reciprocating. Because I feel that if I can put in, it's reciprocating. Whatever it is you can do to me, if I fail you, you're going to have to do to me if you fail me. And so it's different on my end because I think I have a little bit more leverage because they need work and what they need to get out. So I'm not going to sign your document that's one-sided that says that you could throw me overboard and I can't protect my own. But I think adding in reciprocating, I don't know, does that work in the crew world?
Well, I mean, that's a very common tactic
Right.
when negotiating, legal contracts.
Okay.
Is that you want all this stuff, then it's,
I'll give it to you, but you got to give it to me too.
And Florida recognizes that.
Yes.
No.
It doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
The job market is way too competitive to counter with something else in the contract. They're going to just move along. If it's an officer, maybe,
right,
like an engineer, because they are worth their weight, or they charge their weight in gold. The captains is one per boat. Engineer, there's 2 or 3 per boat, and there's
Right.
so few of them. So you don't have the cards.
Have we talked to
for a
maybe
reciprocal agreement.
management? Sorry, like we're having a whole conversation right now. Sorry
This is
about
what it's
that.
about.
I didn't mean to do that. I forgot my mic was on. That sorry. Have we talked to the management companies about making reciprocating documents?
They're the ones giving the more difficult, onerous contracts. The management companies.
Well, I will tell you that one time I was a stewardess for P. Diddy, and I did not sign an NDA. So I will share that story later for whoever wants to know. Yeah. And
Okay,
he's
do
approved.
not put this on YouTube. I'm just going to say because now you have professional women in yachting with P. Diddy, and you're no NDA.
I'm just saying. That baby oil was free.
Okay, I learned. Sorry.
I got my
Fun
lawyer
killer.
on it.
Michelle, keep it up quick because Tiffany's coming from the tank for everybody.
I could get another class action. Let's just say that. Okay, moving on. Thank you, ladies, for that. That was a great discussion wrap through. Success can look different for everyone. How do you define it personally? Can you share a pivotal moment or turning point in your career along with an opportunity that helped propel you forward? And through it all, what keeps you motivated?
Okay, this is the one I liked actually. So, last question. Okay.
No, it's not.
No? Oh, all right. Okay, 22 years I was with the same company. And I made a move to Atlas Insurance, and that was a great move. And then I made a couple more moves, which were not great moves. And so I think what you have to find out is sometimes you just have to go for it. You know, I mean, sometimes you make a change and you go, that was a really dumb thing. I can't believe I did that. But it all works out in the long run. If you become very talented at what you do. All these ladies are incredibly gifted, talented, strong, hardworking, and you guys, I know, there's very talented people in this room. Become really good at what you do. Don't fear making a mistake, because sometimes making a mistake will turn into the best thing ever. Right now, made a couple mistakes. I've turned out to be, building an organization that is just fabulous right now. So I'm very, very, very pleased with the mistakes I've made, to put it shortly. And just as far as what is satisfaction in my life is no drama. I love when things are coming along nice and smooth, and we're able to solve problems for clients. We're there when there's a claim, but sometimes claims can turn into drama. But sometimes they are very, everybody gets, to the end, it's all very much appreciated. So I look for low drama.
A pivotal point in my life where an opportunity presented and changed the trajectory. I don't know if this qualifies, but when I was about 7 years old, my grandma gave me some Kool-Aid and some sugar and the card table and some Dixie cups and sent me to the top of the street to have a Kool-Aid stand. And my brother and I turned that into $4.40, and we went and bought candy for him. And that was like ignited the fire of having my own money, making my own money. And I have been kind of driven towards that ever since. It's sort of, I don't know if I was that way. Maybe she saw that in me when I was 7. Maybe I became that. I'm not sure. But that freedom of having the ability to make it is really what drives me. That's really what I love about my business, my job. I don't think of it as a job because it's really more of a baby project, something that I'm building on every minute of my life. I don't have children. I have a husband and 2 cats and a dog and employees and long-term friends who were employees. And I would just say to all of you, I had my plan A, seconds 240 foot, blah, blah, blah. I had my plan B, which is contempo casuals. I have this piece of paper that I wrote my life plan. This is what I'm going to do with my life, A through J, all written down. I still got it. And at the end of the day, man plans and God laughs. Just go with it. Just go somewhere. Do something. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other and try things. And don't ever let anybody tell you you can't. Or let them and ignore them. Just do it anyway. Do what makes you feel right.
Oh, mic drop. Okay. I struggled with this question. I would say the easy answer, secret to my success, would be my 2 sons, 22 and 27. I had them young. I had them when I was working. I had them when I was president of the marine industries, I drug them everywhere. And you might think like, oh my gosh, and at the time I felt like, oh my God, you know, I can remember having them at meetings. I would have breakfast meetings and they would have a separate table and they would be eating so many like chocolate chip pancakes and chocolate milk, and you feel like a terrible mother. And you know what? I look back at it now, and it's some of their favorite memories. They tell me. My kids grew up at my office and my company, and again, you go through it at the time, and you think, oh my poor, you know, they're not. They should be sitting at home and playing and doing this, and instead, they're favorite memories. So don't ever let kids stop you from doing something. Have them, bring them. They're great, and it will end up being their favorite memories. And for me, they always kept me motivated. A pivotal moment would be I had when I was not going to be a lawyer, and my dad was like, "There's too many lawyers in the world." He said, "You know, this is something that bothers us," and it was the longshore and harbor workers' compensation, which I won't get into. You might enjoy it from insurance, but it's a long diatribe, completely separate. But it's an act that was put into Congress, which was gap filling between Jones Act, which she mentioned for crew and people at sea, and state comp. And we as an industry got kind of caught up in it, and I will tell you, it's another financial. When I first started with the company in 1996, they would basically take our state comp rate and multiply it times 3.4, which, so imagine if you're paying $10 per every $100 of payroll for your workers' comp, now multiply it times 3.4. Now you're paying almost $40 per $100 of payroll just in workers' comp. And so I had to go testify before Congress, which to me was very daunting. You know, this camera kind of moves back and forth, and I thought, oh, what am I? Who let me in here? I don't know why I'm here. I think my youngest was only like 4 months old. I was way hormonal. My suit was too tight. I thought for sure my button was going to pop. I mean, all the insecurities of the world. This was 20 years ago, so I was like 33. Yes, I just told my age. But you know what? I look back and I'm like, wow, you know, you did that. And we did change that act. You know, later the Department of Labor, it wasn't just me, but it was one of those things that it was like, oh, you gave me this to do. Go change an act that's the foundation of the labor unions of all of our country and change it to get your industry out of it. And we did it as an associate. Yes, I got to be the front person. There were a lot of people that did it, and we did it as an association. And that was something that if you had told me when I was younger, I would have said, no, please. But especially some, you know, young people in South Florida are not going to be able to do it. You can do it. And that would be my advice.
Okay, so pivotal moment, I would say I kind of let it out earlier, but I had always worked for others, right, as a maritime lawyer. And I was working for Laura knows them well, a very well-known maritime law firm in Miami. And I was forced out of my job. And I was forced out of my job as a law partner because I opened my mouth. In other words, if I didn't like something, I said something. If I felt like the staff were being abused or being treated improperly, I said something. And I guess I said something just once too many times. So the pivotal moment was when I showed up on December 20, I will never forget this, December 28th of 2011. I show up to my office and I'm locked out of my office. I'm locked out of my computer. I am being instructed by the security guy for the law firm to hand over my phone. And I said, yeah, no, this is not happening. And oh, by the way, I was having lunch with a client. So I very calmly called the client and said, hey, will you help me move my stuff out of my office? What are you talking about? I said, I think I'm being let go. No one will come talk to me, but I think I'm being let go. And I remember coming home that evening feeling kind of like, what did I do wrong? And a lot of women do that. Stop doing that. Because I didn't do anything wrong. And it took me going with a girlfriend of mine who's a big SVP now at Carnival. We've been friends for years. We go to lunch the next day. Oh my God. I was all upset, you know. And then she's like, are you kidding? She goes, I'll get you a job with Ernie over here, the head GC. I'm like, I don't want to do cruise line work. And then she said, well, then pick yourself up and figure it out. And she was absolutely right. And thank God for very supportive husbands. Those of you that know him, he's an amazing person. He's the only reason why I can do what I do, because he does all the back office crap I don't like to do. I don't like to do payroll. I don't like to do all that stuff you do. No. He's the buzz killer.
That's fun. Am I a buzz killer?
Oh, okay. Well, I went with the territory, but anyway. Well, he's definitely the fun killer in the office, you know. But thank God he is, because he was like, you can do this. He says, you know, I represent crew. Like, they get injured once and go away, and they don't come back unless they get injured again. He goes, you have like clients and stuff. Like, you can do this. And he was absolutely right. So, in terms of what I'm most proud of, is actually, I've been married 36 years. It's the man in my life. It's the guy in my life that has supported me throughout all of this stuff.
Where is he right now? Big trouble.
I think he was actually cracking the whip at the office when I was leaving.
He's so fabulous. I love
That's
him.
what fun killers do, yeah. So I'm good with that. I'm good with that. So I would say, in terms of what I'm most proud of, I've got kids, and what you said is absolutely true. I dragged my girls everywhere, and that's probably why they didn't want to be lawyers. Like, yeah, I can't do what you do, Mom. So one is a fashion major, and the other one's an actress. So I kind of close, but I would say it has to be my marriage and having a man that supports every single crazy thing I come up with to do.
That's awesome. Shout out to Manny. Thank you for making that money. Okay, and our last question for the night. What is one outdated mindset or tradition in the super yacht world that we keep holding on to, and what's the cost of not letting it go?
You. Don't be silent.
Amen.
Don't be silent. This code of silence has to stop.
That's well said.
Did you have another finish part of the question? Is there something else?
No. A mindset or tradition in the super yacht world that we keep holding on to, and what's the cost of not letting it go?
Okay,
That's the second part.
Do you want me to get into the second part? I think I kind of explained that already. Like, being silent. Just have a look at Midshipman X and what happened to poor Hope Hicks. If you don't know who that is, Google it. All right? We need to stop, especially as women, the silence of the sexual harassment and all the other nasty stuff that happens on board. If it's a professional vessel, they'll do the right thing. And if it's not, you need to do what you need to do to get the heck out of there and call the authorities.
All right, this has to do nothing to do with serving on a boat, but it has to do with selling boats. Why is it that there are so many male yacht brokers and so many female charter brokers? I mean, why is that? I don't know. Can you?
Lisa from Denison. I'll tell you why. Well, part of the reason I see it personally is that charter brokers, they pay attention to details. I mean, we as women, we look at our surroundings and our environment, and we're always here to nurture and to improve the environment that we're in. We're not here for a quick fix. We're all here today because we actually want to educate. We want to be able to step forward and have a process and bring people into that. We talked about culture earlier. Women are usually the first ones will see if there's a problem on board, not men. You know why? Because men are looking out the window. They don't look on the side view mirrors and they don't look what's behind them. They only see forward. And what they're looking for is they want to be the breadwinners. They want to have success. They want it quick. They want it easy. But it's the women that actually see what's going on. So coming back to your point, Lauren, is that there are a lot of brokers because this is a male-dominated industry. That's all face it. We understand that. And gradually there's more women like yourselves that are coming into the industry and we're actually proving that we will support each other. But I'm a dentist at Yachting and you'll see there's like two female brokers. That's it.
Yeah.
And they're struggling. And I actually know another female broker friend of mine who she'll have the deal and the guy will come straight in and he'll swoop the deal from out under her. And it's like, but there's no repercussions. It's like, oh, dude, nice job, man.
Yeah.
But it's going to change, but it's going to be going back to what Michelle was saying. Stop being silent. Voice your opinion. Start making sounds. I'm good at it. And I mean, like, yacht managers, seriously, there's very few yacht managers. I was at Burgess, there was 2 of us, 2, out of hundreds of employees.
Wow. So there were only 2 yacht managers,
2 yacht managers.
female, at Burgess.
At Burgess.
At the
I was
time.
one of the 2.
Wow.
And then Denison, there's 2 yacht managers as well. But the first thing is, and going back to what I was saying, is that men, they're there to drive the strategy. They're looking at strategy, they're looking forward. Whereas women, we look at all our surroundings. Where are we? Safety. Safety? There you go. We're always trying to be safe because what do? We always want to make sure that our family is safe.
Yeah.
Whereas men, they need to make sure that the money's there to keep the family going.
Yeah.
I would say yes to everything you just said. There's also another component. Women definitely sell the experience of chartering better.
Oh, yeah.
They just do, right? But here's the thing about selling a yacht when it comes to men. The reason why they are just so damn good at it. It's because it's like a boys club. And it's a lifestyle. I mean, they're brokers, I would say, the owners. They want to take their brokers out on the first, on the first trip. So, I mean, that's a deep relationship. And it's not easy to get that. It's not easy to get that and to maintain a certain amount of respect. It's not easy.
That's totally true. And I agree with you, and I totally agree with
I said
what
what
you
you said was
just said.
respect.
But also, the industry is changing lately. I mean, this power, woman power that is inside this room, everything we have shared, everything we talk about, it's totally true. And if you look at statistics, from China to the United States, to any country in the world, women are moving up on a ladder of billionaires, millionaires. So people, ladies, female, that are the decision maker, that are going to decide by that boat for this yacht, for this mega yacht, and they're going to decide what management company to hire, and what lawyer to hire, and what tour agency to hire, and eventually to buy a Ferrari or, whatever yacht is in the world. So I think that all these, probably social media helps too, communication helps a lot in the process. I think we are in a good standing next to people like Samantha and this organization and all the organizations that are standing toward female, that are professional and they're working really hard with passion and integrity to make it happen. And also with a lot of dedication to make their clients happy and their relationship with vendors and everything they act and they deal every day here, healthy, a good environment, So just let's keep doing what we're doing because I think I always see the glass half empty and half full. It's not all bad. I think there's a lot of good
mentorship, and I commend you all because we are further behind the men in this industry, and you guys have made it there, and we all look to you to look forward to a future, and we know that a lot of women have just made it, and you guys want to shine, and we want you to shine, and we look to you for mentorship, and it's not that we want to take anything away from that, but we want to be a part of it, and I think where the men are, it's very a natural progression for them sometimes too in this industry to just lead. It's like a river that flows or a waterway that flows. It just happens very naturally, whereas women, we have just become, I don't know I don't know the correct word, but I think that we are now making a spearhead in this industry, and I think the only way to like get around some of it or further ahead is by banding together and doing mentorships and understanding that no one is trying to take anything away from anybody. They're trying to grow and learn, and I think that that's really pivotal as well.
Well, to what you said, sorry, we were both a crew on board, and so the biggest problem for women, speaking from my experiences as a chief stewardess, I have all of the skills and qualifications for the role that I was enabling charter guests and owners and all that, but I had absolutely no idea what to do with it whatsoever. There isn't a ladder for women. If you're a captain, if you're an engineer, if you're a chef, you can be the broker. You know the boat, you can sell the dream, and men are very good at that, right? If we say this on board, we know that. Right? So they can do that, but they're so good. As Ariana is saying, women need the mentorship because we just don't know what to do. Where do you take the skills as you're a chief stewardess and apply it in a position where you're at the level? Because as a chief stewardess, you're at the level where you're the owner's concierge, you're the client's concierge, you're performing a very high state.
Well, I think that's why Laura was saying that it kind of translates over to being the charter broker. Because you're the concierge, like as a stewardess on board, you're planning the outings and the massages and, discussing with all the staff to like accommodate the whole vacation of it. And that's pretty much what charter brokers are doing. So that's why Laura was saying that, women, they're predominantly charter brokers and the men are in the sales, which is what is very common in this industry.
What about hearing from the men in the back also?
Yeah. Well, we actually we're running out of time, so let's finish this with our panels. It's okay, guys. No, I love all of this. We just we gotta get out. I'm gonna get in trouble. Okay, keep going. Yeah.
Okay, well, on that comment, I would say chief stewardess is a perfect chief operations officer. You know exactly operationally what was going on in the boat. You don't need to know how the air conditioner works or how your plumbing works in the building, but if you know how everything's working and how everybody functions and who gets up and when the guests are coming and going and all that, you're a COO, and companies need that. They need an operations person.
Absolutely, but that doesn't translate. I've been told in the professional realm I'll say it, I've been told this, a toilet scrubber doesn't deserve to be admin.
But a chief stew is not just a toilet
Exactly,
scrubber.
but it doesn't translate.
Well,
There needs to be that education.
That's where it's in.
I'll be a mentor. I'll write your resume. It's a COO. What I would say on something on the industry, I have a serious one and I have a funny one. The serious one is I think we have to stop using the buzzwords of lifestyle and luxury, and that we are an industry. I love, MISF does a good job. Please take a picture of that board downstairs that talks about the 134,000 jobs and the $13 billion economic. We are an industry. And so when you're representing your industry, you sit down at a table, you have a conversation, you have a meeting. You're not just like, we represent yachting. So many of us get caught up, and I'm not saying I haven't been guilty of that, but we talk so much about what yachting does and the places, but we're an industry, and we need to stick to that. And the other thing is, I think if you exhibit or attend a boat show, you must remove all pleated khaki pants. I am tired because everybody and every man that wears, I actually have it banned from my booth. If you wear pleated khaki pants and you're sitting in your booth and looking down at your phone, you're fired. Fire people. Cancel
how you'll be.
Tacky pants are not fun, so you're not telling that fun. That's a good one.
It's fun police now.
Yeah,
That's the young people saying.
Oh, fun police.
No, there's probably a word like riz or like drip or something weird that we don't even know. Okay, Michelle, we gotta wrap this up. Thanks. Oh, you already went, didn't you?
I think I went, yeah.
Yeah? Are we finished? You gotta go. You can't just
So the Old Boys Club,
Oh, yeah.
it's still, and it probably always will be, but it doesn't matter because you can still sell a yacht if you've got the stomach for it. If you don't have the stomach for it, it's still not going to happen, male or female. I've had lots of brokers in my business, and some of them have been very successful. Some of them are still very successful. One of our most successful sales broker is April. April, female. Girl. She was a yachtie for 10 years, and now she's selling super yachts. She sold a 43-meter Sunseeker just last year. She's got listings now. She's just signed a distributorship agreement with a builder in Croatia. So we're bringing the Monica's brand here to Florida, to the United States. We're worldwide distributors of the brand. She's an A student, and it takes an A student to do the job of a sales broker. You have to outwork all of the men. And you have to keep yourself available just as a charter broker, charter manager. You still have to have your phone glued to you, and you still have to court them, make the relationship, but you got to do it with him and her, the wife and the husband, because there's no way you're having the man-on-man relationship with the guy. If he's married, the wife is going to put the kibosh on that. So you've got two relationships to build. So my point is, you just have to work twice as hard, but it probably doesn't feel twice as hard because chances are you're probably better at the details anyway, because you've already got it from job training as a stewardess, picking up all the little things that nobody else notices. So just go for it. Try.
Yeah, definitely don't give up. I think that was the theme of our whole panel. Well, ladies, thank you so much for everything.
Score.org is a hugely valuable free resource, and I've used it twice. It saved my business 2 times. If I ever need it again, I'll go there again. SCORE.org, Service Corps of Retired Executives. You just log in, you put in your, you don't even have to log in, you just put in what you're looking for, and it'll hook you up with a mentor in your area that has the, whether it's marketing or finance or insurance or strategy or just anything at all. It's a great resource. I highly recommend it.
Perfect. Score.org. That rhymes too. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies, and thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Please grab one more cocktail for the road, and big thank you to Marine Industry Association for letting us host, not for the road, but like one more. You know what I mean? All right. Thanks so much.